Do you ever cringe when somebody says your name wrong?
No, because it's really hard to mess up my name.
Yeah, this is Andy Lee. You can't butcher that. But my name, most people when they see it on paper, rarely, if ever, say it right the first time. And it's like nails on the blackboard.
Names are important in genealogy. We use names to help find other records and be able to create a picture of people's lives. But what do you do to manage all the names for a single person that you find as you're gathering these records? Because invariably, they didn't use the same name on every single record. In other words, when you're creating a profile on Family Search or on any other tree program, which name do you use for the name field?
For the purpose of this video, we're going to use FamilySearch.org to teach the principles. But remember, the principles can be applied to any way that you want to track your information, be it other online trees or paper records. The principles matter. So when you're working with a person on Family Search, they have a person page. I like to call it a profile because it's the snapshot, the profile of who they are. It's where you keep their names, their vital information, their relationships, and all of that information. But we're going to zero in on the names field because that's the purpose of this video. Okay, so now that we all know we're working on the profile page or person page, whatever you want to call it, now let's address the question. Andy, what was the question?
Well, the question is, what name do I use? Let's use an example. Let's say in your search, you find a record for your great-grandmother, and that record lists her parents. Hooray!
Yay!
That's 2 more names you have. Now, while that's exciting, many new genealogists have a problem with this. When they're adding those names to the family tree, what names should they use? And as they find more information, continue their research, and new information comes up, well, how do they change the name? And should they change the name? And what is the correct name?
We're going to share some of the guiding principles that we use, as well as we share with others so that they can continue celebrating the new names that they find. Let's go back to the new parents of that great-grandmother. When you create a profile for, let's say, great-great-grandpa, what name do you use? Well, you just found one record, and instead of letting that record go to the great beyond and never find it again, go ahead and use whatever name was on that record, because this is the first time you've ever discovered that name. Use that name, even if it's just A.J. Jones. Put A.J. Jones in the names field, and then you can remember that it came from that record. And Family Search might just serve you up some new records, even though it's just A.J. Jones and you have no idea what that A.J. stands for. Now, let's talk about great-great-grandma. What if her name is Mrs. A.J. Jones? Andy, would you bring that name over?
Well, her name really isn't Mrs. A.J. Jones.
Nope, so I don't bring that name over. But let's say it's Sally Jones. In that case, I would just bring over the Sally because the Jones is her married name. Now, in rare exceptions, Jones actually might be her maiden name too. That can happen. But for right now, I'm just going to bring over Sally. And if I find other records that say her maiden name is Jones, then we can add that later. And that's the key point. You can always change the name later. So for that first record, bring over whatever name is on that record, and that's your starting point.
And that's what's great about doing genealogy in the digital age. You don't have to erase all those family group sheets and pedigree charts just to change one name. You just have to type over it, and the computer does everything else for you. It's great.
Yes!
So the second principle then is, as you find more records, change the name with that new information. For instance, on your first record, if you found an S.A. Thompson as a name, that's what you would record, S.A. and Thompson. But as you keep looking, you find another record that has the first name as Stephen. Well, at that point, I'd go and I would change the name from S.A. to Stephen A. Now you have Stephen A. Thompson. You have a little bit more information. Keep on searching, and maybe another record is going to show you that the middle name was Andrew. Now you can change it to Stephen Andrew Thompson.
But if it does say Andy, or maybe T-O-S, record that. Because you know what? My mom's name is Penny. It's not short for Penelope. So never assume that Andy was actually Andrew or that TOS was Thomas. It could be something else that is THO and has an S in it. Just record what you see as you come across it. So now what happens if you have a couple of records and they start conflicting in the name? Was it really Andy Stephen Thompson, or was it Andrew Stephen Thompson? Well, maybe it's Andreas. This is my guiding principle. I go back and try to find the record that gives me the name that the parents gave that child. And that's what I put in the profile or person page on Family Search. Just because that's what they were named at the time. That's my guiding principles. But there's some other things that might come into play. Andy, what's one that you can think of?
Well, adoption is one thing. For instance, if you have an ancestor that was adopted, you may actually have their original birth certificate, and the name on that birth certificate may be different than what their name that they were known throughout life was. In this case, I would usually put the name that they were known throughout life, and then add their birth certificate name, their original birth certificate name, as an alternate. So adoption is one place where you're going to see name changes. Another thing is people sometimes change their names, whether legally or just because they could. And this is where you get to be a real dilemma. Because if you want to stick to using the birth name and somebody changes their name, well, you still want to make sure that the other name is in the alternate name category. Myself, I like to use whichever name they died with, because that was the last name that they were known by. Now, it may not be the name that most of the records that they'll be found under is, but it's the name that I'm going to find on their death stone. It's the name I'm going to find on a death record or death certificate. And that's probably going to be one of the first things that I'm using to help link with other people in the family. Important, though, to remember, put all those alternate names in. And now a third one is when people come over from other countries and they Englishise their names. They may take a name from another country like Ivan, and when they come to the United States, they may call themselves John. It's good then to include those alternate names because some of them are obvious, some of them aren't obvious at all.
And with those names, which would you put in the top field? The foreign name or the anglicized name?
Again, I usually default to what is the name that they're going to die under, and that's the name that I put in the field.
But that's his personal preference. It really is up to you. You can make that decision for yourself. I know with my my grandmother was adopted, and so we used the name that she was always known by. I also try to include the German spelling of Joseph Keisler, my third great grandfather, with the German beta in it, even though records in the United States take that beta out. I want to see if I can connect him back into Germany with that German beta. So sometimes our guiding principles, you have to make a determination for yourself. Just tell people why you're using that one. And again, include those alternate names and everybody's good to go. So when you discover a new name on a new record, celebrate. But don't stop and be frozen in fear not knowing what name to use. Take the name that you find as you discover them, expand them as you get more records, and then use our guiding principles as to what name to eventually put on there as you're keeping track of all those alternate names. Do you have any other suggestions we should consider as far as what name to use at the beginning on the top profile feed? Put them in the comment section below so we can have a great discussion.
And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up.